I fell in love with my psychiatrist, and he knew, and he kept me until I had the strength to leave after 4 years. Here it is, part 1. So, of course, I loved the attention that I got from him. And it was in my 3rd session with him, because at this point we were all on Zoom, that I asked him, I said, hey, do you mind if I call you by your first name? And he was really good at listening. I was hit by a car turning left as I was going through a green light. And it was the night before my next appointment with my psychiatrist. So I was like, okay, I'll still be able to go to my appointment on Zoom. I'm okay. So even though I usually wear contacts, I'm wearing these turtle shell glasses in these videos because just in case he sees them ever, he'll see me in his favorite glasses. He did tell me he likes the turtle shell. This is about me sharing my story so other people can view predatory behavior in people in power.
Rivah TV. What's up, guys? It's your girl Rivah, and I'm back again with another video. Now, if you guys are unaware, this video has gone, this series, I should say, has gone completely, extremely viral on TikTok, okay? And it is about this woman, as you guys can see by the title, who fell in love with her psychiatrist, was blaming him and saying that he groomed her, like all the kind of things that you could think of, the negative commentary. I don't know if she was trying to trigger the feminists on TikTok to support her and her narrative, but things spiraled, extremely out of control, so much so that the people who immediately were supporting her in the beginning have also turned their back on her. Okay, so the only way for us to have this conversation is for me to bring a portion of the conversation here to you guys. We're gonna press pause and play and watch it together, and I'm gonna give you guys my opinions, the red flags, all the things that I think about this situation, and we're gonna go through it together.
I fell in love with my psychiatrist, and he knew, and he kept me until I had the strength to leave after 4 years. Here it is, part 1. So I decided to go back on ADHD meds after many years of being off of them. I was on them in my early 20s to help me get through college, and then I went off of them because they just weren't, the side effects were too much over the benefits. But then in my late 20s, I read this book, Taking Charge of Adult ADHD, and it absolutely changed my life. For my fellow ADHDers, there's so many good things in here, and the biggest thing that I took away was that it's very important for ADHDers to be on meds. So I decided to make an appointment with a psychiatrist. I just Googled psychiatry in the city that I lived in, and I went with the first one that came up, and I got an appointment within a month.
Now this a key note right here. I'm not gonna pause too much now because it's pretty lengthy. But a key note is that whenever you Google something in your area, whether it's a doctor, a chiropractor, whatever, unless you're going through like a certain form of a business, you're going to usually see that doctor's picture come up, right? There's going to be something about that person, the description of the physicians that they have at whatever facility. Like, you're going to kind of have a face value view of who you're getting into. So immediately when she said that she just Googled this place and set this up, I was like, you had already possibly seen this person from the internet or whatever. I could be wrong. And so I initially just immediately thought you had an aim from the beginning.
And then I booked a 90-minute intake, and I show up to the intake, and this man is my age, and I can't help but notice that he's pretty attractive, this psychiatrist. I fell in love with my psychiatrist, and he kept me anyway, part 2. So in this intake, I kind of clocked that he was attractive in my age, but when I tell you that I've had a lot of couch time in my life, a lot of therapy, I just went right into it. I trusted him enough, of course, why wouldn't I, to tell him about my childhood trauma, my daddy issues, if you will, what I had went through, all of the relationship trauma that I had. I was 6 months sober at this time, but all of the drinking and substance use I used to do, and he just listened and nodded. And that's the thing about psychiatrists, is that they're good at pretending to listen. They can appear connected, but that doesn't mean that they're always connected. So I just felt really seen. And I also told him, I was like, look, I don't want to be on stimulant meds. So he listened to me, and he put me on the non-stimulant ADHD med at the lowest dose just to figure out if it was going to work for me.
Before we let her continue, any mental health professional, it is their job, it's their profession to listen to you. Okay, so he's not he's not doing something that's so, extremely amazing that, it should be like, oh yeah, he really listened to me and he was engaging with me. And a lot of people don't do that. Maybe after a certain time of you being with somebody and they probably get to know you, I'm not saying, maybe they start to realize that you're kind of like spinning on the wheel, and so they just let you ruminate, do whatever it needs to do, and then they help you unpack that after. But this is an intake, right? Like this is what he's supposed to do. He's supposed to be very engaged and getting to know you, especially when it comes to something so serious as you getting on a certain dose or switching or getting medication. Like, he has to listen to you. Now, her being attracted to him off the bat, I can't say 100% there's anything wrong with that. I know most women, if there's a professional that they have to deal with and they're attracted to him, they'd probably rather not. Like, they'd normally want to switch that out because they feel like, maybe ashamed or embarrassed or whatever. They wouldn't feel as comfortable opening up. Obviously, that wasn't her case in the beginning. And so she kept it going.
I was in love with my psychiatrist and he kept me anyway, part 3. So I hadn't ever seen a psychiatrist before. When I was on meds in my early 20s, I only got meds from my primary care physician. So I didn't understand how psychiatry works. So because he was figuring out my med dose, I saw him every month and he just made me feel like I was his friend. He was really, really funny and cracked jokes and told me he was impressed with my running that I would do. And yeah. So of course I loved the attention that I got from him. And it was in my 3rd session with him, because at this point we were all on Zoom, that I asked him, I said, hey, do you mind if I call you by your first name? And he's Pakistani, so I said his first name wrong. And he said, well, it's pronounced this, but yes, of course you can. And he seemed so smug and happy with himself. And I know that that is because that was his first sign that him pretending like we're friends was working. And to be fair to me, I had only ever been to therapy before. I didn't realize that, it's important to call your doctor last name. I mean, I did know that. I did it with all my other doctors, but it just showed that the boundaries were blurring, and he liked that.
The boundaries were blurring because of you, not because of him. First of all, the fact that you guys have been meeting on these Zoom calls, okay, and you were so, undoubtedly attracted to this man over Zoom. It wasn't even like a physical thing or, something face to face. You were just so attracted to this man. And however, this is why I say the red flag from the beginning of you going online and searching up this man. How do you know this man's first name? How do you know it? And the fact that you had the audacity to ask him if you can call him that, and then try to turn it around as if, oh yeah, he was so okay when I called him by his first name. Like, obviously you were insistent of this. Like, obviously this was your plan. You called him by his first name. He said, okay. You said like, oh, he knew that his plan of making me cool with him was working. That's his job. His job is to make you feel comfortable, to make you feel seen. She's like, oh, I felt so seen by him and I loved the attention. His job is to provide you undivided attention, again, so that you can feel comfortable enough to express whatever needs to be expressed. Obviously, especially because he's giving you medication, because he has to see what's going on with you. He has to know what's going on within your mental space. And so he needs to create that space that you feel free enough to communicate with him. Not so you can misread everything that this man is doing and try to make it to be something that is not. She's like, oh my gosh, I love the attention. He's supposed to provide attention. Okay? A psychiatrist, a therapist, a psychologist who does not pay attention to you is a problem. He was just doing his job.
So from then on, from my 3rd session on, I started calling him his first name. And then he just started turning up the volume on us being friendly. And he would ask me, for the first 6 sessions, he asked me after the meds, he said, how's your bowels, bladder, and appetite? And I would say they're all normal. And then he would ask me any thoughts of harm. And apparently that's pretty common for psychiatry to ask those questions. And then on our 6th session, when things were really, the chemistry was starting to be there before, like, I didn't realize it. I was like, oh, this man's just friendly. And he said, I have to ask this because it's a special interest of mine, but is there any thoughts of harm? Like, I was special to him. And I said, no thoughts of harm. And he didn't ever ask me a clinical question again. He stopped asking me about my bladder, bowels, and appetite, and he stopped asking me about thoughts of harm. So to me, I would just show up and he was like a therapy appointment every month.
Maybe he stopped asking you that because he was like, let me tell you my opinion. I don't know, I wasn't there, but just off of just a couple of these parts, and there's a lot more parts to go. Like I said, I'm trying not to pause and play too much. But from the outside looking in, it seems like when he first met her, he thought she was just cool. He's like, oh yeah, she cool. We were on the same age. Like, you know, whatever the case is, she goes running and stuff like that. You know, no problem. Then I think he started to pick up on, I don't know, something seems a little bit off. She seems to be reading too deep into some of the questions that I asked. You know, she said, this is a special interest. Did that man say that? Did he say that like that? I'm not sure. But she's like, oh, like I'm special to him. That's an assumption that you made. The assumption that you made is that you're special to him, when you could have misunderstood or misread what he was saying. And again, thinking of the question at hand, he's trying to probably ask it in the most delicate way so you feel free enough to give him the truthful answer. She's not seeing it like that, though. She's not, I don't know if you guys, she's not seeing it that way.
So I was seeing him every month and just gaining more and more respect for him, because he would just tell me these little things about his successes and all of the cool things that he was doing in his life. And it made me fall for him, honestly. And he was really good at listening. And I mean, he's a Pisces, right? So of course he's going to be there and be able to go deep with my feelings, but that doesn't mean that he wasn't extracting from them. Anyway, so I would beg him to let me see him every week. Beg him, because my therapist at the time, he was fine. You know, he wasn't a predator, but he was fine. He just wasn't doing very much for me. And so
you already had a therapist. You're going to the psychiatrist to get medication. The only follow-ups that you need to have with your psychiatrist is related to how you are being affected by the medication that he was putting you on, right? You then dropped your therapist, probably because you weren't attracted to him. Obviously. I don't think there's any other reason. The main reason, because you weren't attracted to him. You saw no future there. And so you wanted to now make your psychiatrist now become your therapist, when you already had one. But somehow, all of these things that are happening and that she's, telling us is this man's fault.
That therapist retired and I got a new therapist. And this new therapist, who is a 75-year-old woman with a PhD, she was pretty helpful. So I stopped asking my psychiatrist, begging, honestly, to be my therapist and let me see him more, right? Which also should have been a red flag. But then I started focusing on this therapist. However, I would tell the therapist how obsessed I was with my psychiatrist, and she didn't do anything about it. She just was interested. She also loved stories about my dating life, and yeah, she also was getting supply from me in her own way, but that's for another part. So yeah, so I got a new therapist who actually helped me. She taught me CBT, EFT, all of these different modalities. And so I went back to just being okay with seeing Irfan once a month, while he was giving me these little breadcrumbs of making me feel special, telling me about his professional achievements, telling me about how he's getting international recognition. I got a new therapist. I stopped begging my psychiatrist to see me weekly. And that is when the intermittent reinforcement started. Some sessions he'd be warm and kind and wonderful and let me in on little parts of his life and like be vulnerable with me or pretend. Other sessions he would be cold and clinical and detached.
Why do you want, he's supposed to be helping you, okay? Why is it important for you, for this man to be telling you about his personal life and his personal business? You already, first of all, you just slipped and said the man's name, okay, in the last video. But why is it that it is so vital to you to have this man, who is, again, supposed to be helping you, tell you stuff about his life and his personal business? I believe that he probably was, trying to be cool and keep things balanced. And then he realized, okay, I can't be cool with her. Depending on how she come into this session is going to be dependent on how I act, because she's clearly crossing boundaries for absolutely no reason.
And you know what that did? It made me work harder in our next sessions. It did. And it started the addiction that I had to him, 100%. And he knew exactly what he was doing. This man gives lectures on trauma and attachment theory. He used his psychiatric training to manipulate me and get me hooked. And guess what? It worked. In January of 2024, I was hit by a car turning left as I was going through a green light. And it was the night before my appointment, my next appointment with my psychiatrist. So I was like, okay, I'll still be able to go to my appointment on Zoom. I'm okay. But I did make an appointment with an urgent care the next day just to get checked out. I had bruising on my abdomen and a perforated eardrum. And the provider at the urgent care said, I do not feel comfortable treating you. You need to seek emergency care now. You may be internally bleeding. But it was 11 o'clock in the morning and my appointment with my psychiatrist was at 2. So I decided that I was going to wait so I could see my psychiatrist and not have to reschedule, because I was looking forward to my appointment with him so much. I look back at that time and I'm just like, oh my God, I put my own life under seeing him. I was fully addicted to him at this point. And you know what happened is that I showed up and I told him that I may be internally bleeding, and he didn't stop the appointment. He didn't say, you need to take care of yourself. Go get emergency care now. He let me continue.
This lets me know that, I know that she said it's ADHD, but this lets me know that there's something else that this professional sees. Okay, and I want to just pause right here for a second to say this is so dangerous, because as this woman is coming on the internet, she already said his name. People done found him on social media and was posting his picture and stuff like that. And you're saying all these things about this man who could literally lose his job over him only doing what he was supposed to do. And she's making all of these claims. She's saying all these things against him. And if you went to him and you said that you were internally bleeding and he kept the session going and ignored that is going to lead me, because, any intelligent, especially a medical professional, human being is going to make sure that you seek care immediately. But for him to bypass that and continue the session gives me the impression that maybe a lot of your conversations started to have these kind of delusions of grandeur, that maybe he possibly was just listening to you and was also like, I don't know if that's true, because if that were true, why would a logical thinking person be here having a session on Zoom? You can do Zoom on the phone. You could have been at the hospital on the Zoom if it was so urgent for you.
Just tell him about how much I loved him and how grateful I was for him, because that was really what most of our appointments were, is me just like pouring myself out, because he was so good at the intermittent reinforcement. Yeah, I got some warmth from him that appointment. So that was January 2023. And I also told my therapist about this. She said nothing. After I risked my life to see him, that's when he really started turning up the intimacy in our appointments. However, he was really smart and knew the professional lines like the back of his hand. So he would comment on my appearance, but not compliment my appearance. So I would come on screen and he would say, oh, you curled your hair. Or I would come on screen and he would say, oh, you're wearing glasses. And of course I felt seen and excited that he was noticing these things about me. I didn't realize at this time that he had feelings for me too.
It's a Zoom call. Okay. You pushed to call this man by his first name. He reinforced boundaries, and every time that he reinforced boundaries, you admittedly said here that it would make you try harder and push harder. You had all these feelings for him. You're so in love with him, all, yada, 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 and free. Maybe a part of him analyzing your behavior is analyzing the differences that you are now displaying, especially since he's seeing you every month or every week or whatever the case is. So he's noticing slight changes in you. Okay, normally she's been very monotonous and now she's doing something different. Maybe he's asking you so that you can expound on that. Now, this man, making any kind of comment to you is now him exposing that he has feelings for you. This is dangerous, y'all. Like, if somebody would not be looking through the lines, they would take this serious and his job would be on the line. For what?
I thought I was holding them all by myself. So I was so excited when he noticed my glasses that I ran and showed him my other pair, and he said, I prefer turtle shell glasses. So even though I usually wear contacts, I'm wearing these turtle shell glasses in these videos because just in case he sees them ever, he'll see me in his favorite glasses. He did tell me he likes the turtle shell.
He groomed you. You're a victim. All these things. But let me go ahead and wear his favorite color, his favorite glasses that he said that he likes that I wear, so that just in case he sees me, he's still going to be attracted to me because I'm in the same glasses that he said he liked. Girl, we about to call them people, girl. Girl, We about to call them people. And the reason why this is such a big deal and a big story is because this also just shows how, women can twist stories and lie on men, and people will believe it. Because in the beginning of these stories, people were believing what she was saying. Even up till now, people were like, wow, this is crazy. I can't believe that you're going through this. Until they start seeing, like, okay, both of your mental health professionals you started complaining about. You complained about the first guy who you said wasn't doing anything for you, and he retired. Maybe he didn't even retire. Maybe he just told you that. You complained about the woman psychiatrist that you got and how she was bad too. Now you're complaining about this guy. These are all mental health professionals, and the only common denominator is you. So I don't feel like the problem is maybe you.
Anyway, it was just inappropriate things like that. Little teeny things that he let me in. And all this time, my best friend is an emergency medicine physician. And she told me, she said, Kendra, one of these days, your psychiatrist, she would use his name, is going to say, I can't be your doctor anymore. I want to be with you. I want to be with you so bad. I can't be your doctor. I'll see you in 2 years. So my best friend, who's a doctor, she picks up on stuff like that.
Did your best friend say that he was going to say that? Or did your best friend say, is this your hope? Did she say, are you thinking that maybe, are you hoping one day he does this? Is that what she said? Or did she say that he is going to do that? Because at this point, I'm not believing nothing that you say, because I feel like everything that you are revealing to us is just an interpretation of how you took it. And that's something that a lot of women do that get men into trouble, and it's very dangerous. It's not about, let me know what that person said verbatim, not how you took it, not how you internalized it, not how you received it, and how you're putting it back out there.
So even she knew that our relationship was crossing boundaries and getting weird, but that became my dream, was for my psychiatrist, I almost use his name, to do that. And I told him about Brianna saying that, my best friend, who's the emergency medical doc. I told him that she would tell me that, and he just would be silent. He didn't disagree, but he didn't agree, and that was, weaponized neutrality was his favorite game to play, right? He didn't disagree with Brianna telling me that my psychiatrist had feelings for me, but he also didn't say that's inappropriate. Let's change the subject. It was also around this time that I asked my psychiatrist if he had diagnosed me with anything other than ADHD when I had my initial diagnosis. And he said, yeah, I did. I said, oh, what did you diagnose me with? And he said, well, you had a lot of traumatic things happen to you in childhood because of your dad. And so I diagnosed you with other trauma and stressor related disorder. And that was the first little ping that I got of like, that was weird. Why would he keep that from me? I asked him, like, why wouldn't he tell me that? That seems important.
The rage that she gets that this man kept something from her when it's literally in her file and he's keeping note of it and keeping a log of it as he's supposed to do as a profession is very alarming. It's very alarming. Like the amount of anger in her eyes that she's exuding, like how dare he, keep this from me, is like,
he didn't tell me because he was using that information to manipulate me. He knew I had trauma and stressor disorder, and instead of helping me heal from it and telling me about it, he used it against me. January 2023, at this point, I was full-blown obsessed with my psychiatrist, and my therapist wasn't helping me, my psychiatrist wasn't helping me, he was feeding it. And then I got a boyfriend, and at first my psychiatrist wasn't really that keen, but then my psychiatrist realized that my boyfriend was a lot like my psychiatrist. And then I started talking to my psychiatrist about my sex life, about tracking my cycle, using the fertility awareness method. And my psychiatrist loved it. He didn't ever say, this isn't inappropriate to your care, let's pivot. Oh, he just let me talk and talk and talk about my sex life. And I didn't get too deep, but about a year and a half in, and I would send my psychiatrist these emails just about how much I liked him and how I was so grateful for him, and put in a bunch of heart emojis. And this is really when he should have transferred my care, but he waited. He liked what I gave him too much.
I think that there's a lot of factors that come into play with this situation. Number one, she crossed all the boundaries of professionalism. Obviously, there's some things that she is struggling with, right, mentally, and he knows that. He is a trained professional and knows how to deal with these things. And I was wondering at the beginning too, I'm like, why didn't he just stop seeing her? Like, why didn't he put her off to somebody else and say, I don't know how good this is gonna go or whatever. But the more that she keeps talking, the more it makes me feel like he probably felt bound to this situation, because if any other, if he would have, stopped taking her services, or if he would do whatever, I can only imagine how she would have retaliated, because he never said he was attracted to her. He never said he had feelings for her. He never said that he wanted a relationship with her. He, the more that he reinforced strict boundaries, the more that she would try to counter them and beg him. And so I believe that maybe at this point, when she got into a relationship, he probably was like, whew, now we can go ahead and get back to the work and focus on this. And now I'm not going to have to worry about all the other things, because she's in a relationship and is able to channel that energy, into something else, into somebody else.
And so even though my boyfriend did not meet my needs, my psychiatrist and my therapist both were like, you have to stay with him. There's nothing wrong with him not meeting your needs.
The psychiatrist was like, don't leave that man. Okay? Because ain't no opportunity here. You might as well stay where you at. He's saying everything that he could possibly say. She talked about how her friend told her about, maybe one day we're going to be in love. He never even answered her. He didn't respond. Most people would take that as, okay, yeah, he not feeling it. Not her. She's like, he didn't answer me, so I knew it means yes. Like, he didn't want me to leave my boyfriend, and I know that's because he really wants me. Girl, what?
Your needs. I'm like, okay. And my psychiatrist was like, he's perfect. Don't get wrong with him. And what was perfect about him was he wasn't meeting my needs. So I was still coming to my psychiatrist looking for emotional validation, which he would drip to me slowly. So my therapist, who I didn't know at this time had bad boundaries, but she did, I went to her because my boyfriend and I, after more than a year together, we started having issues in the bedroom. And so I went to my therapist and she asked me, what does your psychiatrist think about this? And I said, I don't know. I haven't talked to my psychiatrist about this stuff because I have a crush on my psychiatrist and I don't want to tell him this intimate of stuff. And she said, well, you should tell him because I want a male's perspective. So at my next appointment with my psychiatrist, I told him, I said, today we're going to talk about
I don't know if that lady told her that. Okay. It just, the light bulb just went off in my head. I don't know if that lady told her that. I don't know if that lady said, did you talk to your psychiatrist about it? And she said no. And then she said, okay, because I would have wanted a male's perspective on it. I don't know if she told this woman, after she told her how she in love with this man, obsessed, addicted, like the words that she's using, obsessed and addicted to this man. I don't know if that lady sent her over there. Okay. I just don't believe it.
Intimate life. And he said, oh, I said, yes. My psychologist, my therapist asked what your opinion on it was. And I told her that I don't talk to you about this intimate stuff because I have a crush on you. And he looked down and smiled so big in that moment. He smiled so big and I loved it. It's so gross thinking about it. And then I proceeded to give him 30 minutes of non-stop content about my intimate life with my boyfriend. And I actually recorded the whole thing because I was so excited about it.
And he's the one with the problem. and you're the victim in this situation. And he's the one with the problem. But you recorded it all now. I've been waiting to hear like the boundaries that this man crossed. Like, what did he do? What did he say to you? Did he hit on you? Did y'all sleep together? Like, what is the situation? Whole time this been on Zoom. Okay, this man has not, crossed anything that I've seen so far. Whole time, you're the one recording conversations of you being intimate with somebody else, and you're getting a kick out of it. And then blaming him for listening.
But now it makes me sick. I can't even listen to the recording. I've tried to start, but it's gross. Any ethical psychiatrist would have stopped me and said, Kendra, let's talk about your meds. Let's talk about your care. At this point, my meds were stable. And I was still seeing him every month. Yeah, that was a rough time. And it was pretty much his Christmas morning, the almost 2.5 years of grooming me to get me to talk about sexual things with him worked.
How did he, and this is the thing that I'm saying about this conversation, is that this woman knew she was attracted to him, purposely sought him out, begged him to see her every week when it was not necessary to see her every week. It was necessary to see her maybe on a monthly basis to keep track of what's going on with her and her medication. And she got a boyfriend and purposely wanted to tell this man, intimate things to see what his reaction would be, so much so that she recorded it and had it on standby so she can re-listen to it later again. And then somehow he's the problem in all of this situation, and he's the one who forced her to do these things. This is illogical. It's extremely illogical that you could even fathom that this man purposely told you to go get a boyfriend and do things and then come back and tell him about it. He didn't even listen. I'm sure if we got this man's side, he didn't even want to see what's out there unless he had to. I'm sure. Like I said before, I done some research and it said that basically if he would have, dropped her or as a client or whatever, that it would have been a situation that, it could look like patient neglect or whatever the case is and ruin his track record of him having good rapport with his clients. Number two, she's like, a good ethical person would have fired me as a client. So what would a good ethical human being have done? What would somebody with good morale have done? Why didn't you stop seeing him?
And he got 30 minutes of nonstop content to use. I need to address 3 things. 1, people are asking me what my mental health diagnosis is. I do not have BPD. I do not have psychosis. I have ADHD, and I was experiencing extreme limerence with my psychiatrist. Limerence is a normal thing to happen to anyone who is experiencing hot and cold behavior from someone. And it happens more often in people with ADHD because we have dopamine dysregulation and rejection sensitive dysphoria. And guess what? My psychiatrist knew that and used it to his advantage. 2, I accidentally said my psychiatrist's first name in one of my videos. If you clocked it, good for you. I do not owe him anonymity. However, this is not about doxing my psychiatrist. This is about me sharing my story so other people can view predatory behavior in people in power. Okay? If anyone doxes my psychiatrist with his last name or city that he works in or clinic that he works in, your comment will be immediately deleted and you will be blocked. This is about protecting other victims, not doxing my psychiatrist. If you do some investigative work and you want to DM me about it, I'm open to that. Okay? 3, I need to take a moment. Moment taken. It is so incredibly disturbing to me, the amount of people that are predator protectors in my comments, that are victim blaming me, especially the mental health practitioners in my comments using therapy speak to say that this situation that I was in was my fault or that I was delusional. Check yourself. You're giving me more ammunition to share my story because it just goes to show how absolutely messed up the mental health industry is and how protected people who do this kind of sick psychological manipulation are. So I will continue with my story tomorrow. I will see you all then.
Now she crushing it on us. Okay? She mad at the people who don't have her back on social media. She's mad at the people who are calling her out and calling out for what it is. And if it's not about, doxing him, if it's not about, wanting him to lose his job because of how, how vulnerable you felt or how taken advantage or groomed you were, then what is the point? What's the point? Because now we don't see how this man who is in a position of power did anything to this woman. All we are literally witnessing is somebody being delusional. And again, it is showcasing that you cannot always take a woman's word for it just because she comes on the internet and is speaking in some kind of terminology that makes it seem like she's a victim. You can't. Because the whole time, if people were just not reading between the lines, and if she didn't create this whole 1 million part series and people just saw the beginning videos, they would have immediately believed her. Immediately. Just because she's woman. And all men are bad, these men are men, like because of that narrative, they would have just jumped on her train and her bandwagon and said, yeah, we need to get this man fired. They would have left the Google reviews under the company after they found him. Like all these things. The whole time, all these women, the feminists alike are like, hate to say it, but we're not on your side, sis. This don't make no sense. And it just shows what some of these women are capable of. They can just say things and do things and blame people and victimize themselves, even if they're the ones who are running amok. That's dangerous. That's super dangerous. Now, I did see, you know, a lot of therapists and stuff that had to come out and speak on their behalf. We're going to go ahead and get into that in another video. But I'd love to know what you guys think about this entire situation and conversation in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts and your opinions on this entire situation. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. And I will see you guys in the next one. Love you.
Rivah TV.